Hello and touch the lid to all the class 12 students. With this class, we are going to start chapter number 1, Reproduction in Organisms. Okay, so in this particular chapter, we will be studying about the definition of reproduction and the differences between the two modes of reproduction, that is, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Okay, so we will start our chapter number 1, Reproduction in Organisms. So first, let us look at the definition of reproduction. Reproduction nana kharla wore tigi thunda jorwa and reproduction la di kharchin khechambure ti kolla ha ko worta, right? So the definition given in your textbook for the reproduction process is the biological process in which an organism gives rise to young ones, which is also called as offspring similar to itself, is called reproduction, right? So khalla sha reproduction la zambala khalla wore la sha ro kisi organism chiki ro so dawo so gi pu so gi yobi by na ro ani the process de la khala wor la re reproduction la wor is, right? So reproduction ki definition dikhiran zuti matisha na digre. Now why is reproduction important? Reproduction la di khajin ke chambure ro kiran zu gi lotem na lo yobi by na it is written that all living organisms, they have got a particular lifespan. They are born and then they die ro king tamje khachi gore ke anjela khachi gore chidu gorwa di indi zambala khonsul khariore che ring dong marwe lifespan, right? Organisms ki birth ne chini natural death para gi thuju dina ngazu khala gore lare lifespan la gores ro the organism individual rare la lifespan yobi imbai na ro ani individual sama shidu ro the indi zambala species la di ne chedu kharche go gore that individual should reproduce, that individual should produce copies of itself, right? Or they should produce babies which look similar to them. So that is what reproduction is. So reproduction ki kharchi gorlana, it ensures the continuity of the species. Individual koranda shidure de ine ko reproduce cheve kengi. Individual thigi reproduce cheve kengi species la di mewa chawu yomar nature nanglo la species la the khandis continue che to ore khandis ne to ore la wimba na generation after generation la the species ne to the khargi kembe rela na the biological process called reproduction, right? And reproduction is also important because it creates genetic variation, especially in sexually reproducing organisms. In sexually reproducing organisms, since two individuals they meet up, right, they share their genetic materials to create a new individual. That means genetic variation is created, right? Dil khala orla wimbana gene nanglola ani kewa manda ligores kirangi gene da kira palamla gi gene di dagmar loga logare ro kirangi gene da kira pingya gi phamachik pingya imbane di gene di dagmare ro di indu zambala through reproduction individuals are produced who have got genetic variation among them. Okay, so that is what reproduction is important, right? It ensures the continuity of the species and it creates genetic variation. So reproduction equality che we have got two types of reproduction. Reproduction rigmanda ni res ro rigmanda ni di khari khar re la asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction na khala ore when the offspring is produced by a single parent with or without the involvement of gamete formation. That is called as asexual reproduction because there is only one individual. There is no two individuals involved in the production of new individuals, right? So offspring is produced by a single parent, right? So that is asexual reproduction. You might have studied about amoeba, how amoeba reproduces, right? So we will discuss more about this one later on. So asexual reproduction la na parent chigi or individual chigi ani offspring produce chigi yobi na or new individual produce chetu yobi na the asexual mode of reproduction race. The sexual mode of reproduction na two parents, right, of opposite sexes, they participate in the reproductive process, right? So dinalola khariore parent near, there are two parents, right? There are two individuals involved, right? And dinalola sochi kharila wimban, it involves the fusion of male and female gametes, right? In sexual reproductions there should be two individuals and those two individuals should produce gametes, and those two gametes they should fuse, and that mode of reproduction, right, is called as sexual reproduction. Sexual mode of reproduction follows. For example, females they give rise to egg or ovum, and male they give rise to sperm. Egg, ovum, sperm these are gametes, male gametes and female gametes, right? Male gamete and female gamete, they will fuse together to form a new individual, right? So kuni fuse chen individual sawa chaworo di khare sexual mode of reproduction, right? So the asexual mode of reproduction nanglola, since a single parent is involved, a single individual is capable of producing offspring. So that is what it is called as asexual reproduction. Asexual, a lana khala ore single, right, or without, right, without involvement of two sexes, asexual reproduction. So the khajin kharsa asexual reproduction galandu this neto this mangs ha ko yobi mai na. The offspring are not only identical to one another, but are also exact copies of their parents. Right now, asexual mode of reproduction kaji ki characteristic chik harela na the offspring produce chegyo chumaro. Asexual mode of reproduction ki through offspring produce chegyo dige ro franzo nangu chikba yimba mase. But they are also exact copies of their parents. Penjun the daw yobache. Ni tigala ni koranzu parent the chibajigyan chagyolo. And therefore, such individuals are known as clones. Individuals produced by asexual reproduction are also called as clones because they are morphologically and genetically similar individuals. Okay, so if you take the amoeba over here, so this is the parent amoeba. So this parent amoeba, it divides into two individuals, right? This parent amoeba, it divides into two two individuals, and if you compare these individuals, they are identical to each other. They are identical to each other morphologically and genetically, right? And they are also identical to their parent cells. So therefore, they are called as clones, right? Clones morphologically and genetically now asexual mode of reproduction nanglola tangazu khashich hago or kinazu loktem nang tear. You need to know some more information about asexual reproduction. Different types of asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction through cell division as a mode of reproduction, right, which is observed in monerans and protists. We will see what they are. And then special asexual reproductive structures, which are found in fungi and simple plants and animals. And then we have got vegetative propagation in plants. And then finally, we have got fragmentation. So these are some types of asexual reproduction, or cell division through special reproductive structures, vegetative propagation, fragmentation. These are some types of asexual reproduction. Cell division, the first one is cell division as a mode of reproduction. Right. So cell division as a mode of reproduction, it is observed in single-celled organisms, right? Especially monarins and protists. Single-cell organisms, monarins and protists, monarins are those organisms, single-celled organisms, which are prokaryotic cells, right? Bacteria, monarins, whereas protists are single-celled eukaryotic organisms, right? And single-celled prokaryotic organisms are called as monarins. Single-celled eukaryotic organisms are called as protists. So these single-cell organisms, they usually reproduce through cell division. Right? You can give example: binary fission in amoeba and paramecium. Right? These are two specific examples: binary fission in amoeba and paramecium. So you can draw the diagram of binary fission in amoeba. Right? So here we have got the parent amoeba. It divides into two daughter cells, and this is called as binary fission. And then we have also got budding in yeast, right? So yeast is a single-celled eukaryotic organism. Okay, so yeast, it divides, or it reproduces through budding process, in which the cell, it divides and bud is produced, a small bud is produced, and that bud, it grows and it detaches itself from the parent cell, and it becomes a new yeast cell, right? So this is called as budding. Now try to differentiate between the binary fission observed in amoeba and budding observed in yeast. Binary fission, the budding is cell division re. Okay. Now, in special cases, amoeba, it divides through a different method. right? Dinalol khare amoeba, it divides through binary fission, right? Now here we have something called sporulation, right? Amoeba, it also reproduces through sporulation. Now let us try to understand what is sporulation. Okay, so amoeba, when it is under unfavorable condition, what happens is it covers itself with cyst, and the process is called as encystation. Encystation lana khala ore amoeba kisi ne ta khakpu din da chukam do do ta namshi chau ro cha ya da din de do cha yo bi mana condition unfavorable in bai na ro amoeba di khashi gere khorang gi ye la protective covering to create gere cyst latch, and the process de la khala ore encystation ro encysted pe thakor, it keeps the amoeba safe right inside. And when the favorable condition returns, kisi ta chilo gi neta dukja di ta khali khali mewa cha do wi na neta yar do wi na, what will happen inside the cyst? The amoeba, it divides, the cell division choro, it divides multiple times, so it is called as multiple fission. Inside the cyst, the amoeba divides multiple times. This is called as multiple fission, and it gives rise to small amoebas, minute amoeba. So minute amoeba they are called as pseudopodiospores. These are called as pseudopodiospores or simply spores. Okay, and what happens later on? The cyst, it burst open, right? The cyst wall burst open, and the spores will be released, and each spore will become new individual amoeba. Amoeba saw mangushu chayangor. Ilang azu khalla gore sporulation law. Now, second one is special asexual reproductive structures, right? Asexual reproduction through special asexual reproductive structures such as zoospores, which is observed in Chlamydomonas. So this is zoospores, right? Zoospore create cheni ani kisi reproduce chigi yobi bana, wa ani diye khare asexual reproduction re. And then conidia in Penicillium. Penicillium di fungi re da. Alumin Chlamydomonas la dikhare algae re. Fungi dikhare fungi kharre la women penicillium. So penicillium, it reproduces through formation of special structures called as conidia. Conidium of women they give rise to new penicillium. And then we have got buds in Hydra. Hydra, which is a multicellular simple animal, right? It's a very simple animal. Hydra, it gives rise to a new individual through budding, right? And they're budding jorta. Thaji yeast kaji budding this loka reta. Yeast kaji the single cell raw. They're multicellular reta. So this is external budding. Whereas we have also got gemmules. So gemmules is a special asexual reproductive structure which is found in sponges. Sponge tenzulana sponge lana chona lo la nenge semjendere. Semje be simple interior. Konzu khajoro konzu supu nanglo la. Supu nanglo la, they create a cluster of cell which is capable of giving rise to a new individual. Right. So that is called as gemmules. Tenzula khalere gemmule. Supu nanglo la budding form che jomarwe. Gemmules. So dige khanzo tembanya zoospores in Chlamydomonas, conidia in Penicillium, buds of Hydra, gemmules of sponge. They are special asexual reproductive structures. And then we have got vegetative propagation in plants. Right, vegetative propagation in plants. Plant, they have, especially angiosperms, they can reproduce sexually through flowers. Flower nanglo male the female but plants, they can also reproduce asexually through vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation without the involvement of flowers. If plant, they reproduce by vegetative parts like stem, right, leaves, roots. Then through reproduce vegetative propagation like roa. So special vegetative propagation structures are called as vegetative propagules. So vegetative propagules runners, rhizome, sucker, tuber, offset, bulb. So the example eyes of the potato. These are nothing but the stem buds, right? Stem buds of the potato, or we also call it as eyes. Right, so these eyes, they can germinate into new individuals. And the rhizomes of the ginger, right? Rhizomes have an adventitious root over. Rhizomes of the ginger, they can also give rise to new individuals. And then we have got bulbil of agave. You have to remember these terms, right? Eyes of the potato, rhizomes of ginger, bulbil of agave, and then we also have got leaf buds of the bryophyllum, right? Adventitious buds or the leaf buds of the bryophyllum, which can give rise to new individuals. And then we also have got offset of water hyacinth ka ji. And then finally we have got fragmentation, right? Fragmentation la here. So fragmentation la the example khatena degree hydra ka ji. If the individual is broken down into small pieces, like say here we have got the hydra individual, the parent hydra, it is broken down into 3 pieces. Each of these pieces, they can give rise to a new hydra individual, right? And this is called as fragmentation. It is sort of like a regeneration. Regenerate, we cannot regenerate, right? If our hands are broken apart, if hands are cut off, our hand cannot give rise to a new individual, right? So we cannot give rise to our own hand cannot give rise to a new individual, so we cannot regenerate. But in simple organisms like hydra, simple animals like hydra, if their body are cut into small fragments, each fragment can give rise to a new individual, and this is called as fragmentation. And this is reproduction through complete regeneration, right? Regeneration to child over. Now I have got few open questions before we end this particular class. I've got few open questions which I have taken from your textbook, and it asks, why are single-celled organisms considered immortal? Or single-cell organisms they immortal kachin considered chigores. And why is sexual mode of reproduction preferred by members of algae and fungi during unfavorable conditions who would otherwise reproduce asexually? Algae da fungi ne zo thugin du kharchi gore asexually reproduce gore, but under unfavorable condition they favor sexual reproduction. Why? So with this we come to the end of this particular class. In the next class we will discuss about sexual mode of reproduction, right? Please try to find answers for these 2 questions. Thank you.